In sports, we're all obsessed with the clock, right? Every second counts. But after a hard hit to the head, the clock that really matters isn't the one on the scoreboard. It's a hidden one, ticking away inside your skull. And the choices made in those first few moments, well, they can change everything. Let's dig into what the science really says about making the right call.
It's that moment every athlete, parent, and coach dreads. You take a big hit. Your head is ringing. You feel a little off. But the game is on the line. The pressure is immense. Do you push through for the team, or do you make that tough call to head to the sideline? For way too long, that decision has been all about gut feelings and just, toughening it out. But what does the science actually tell us to do?
So, first up, the on-field dilemma. We have to start here because you can't understand the problem without understanding the intense pressure athletes feel to play through an injury. In sports, playing through pain is often seen as a badge of honor, but when we're talking about a brain injury, that mindset can be incredibly dangerous.
And the scale of this problem is just staggering. Get this, researchers estimate that a whopping 50 to 70% of sports-related concussions go completely unreported. Think about that. For every single athlete who gets taken out of a game, there might be one or even two others still out there, playing with an undiagnosed brain injury. It's a silent epidemic.
Look, we've all heard the advice a million times. When in doubt, sit it out. And yeah, it makes total sense. But a gut feeling isn't the same as hard data. So a group of researchers decided to finally answer the question with science. What precisely happens in the real world when you decide not to sit it out?
All right, let's get into the science. We're looking at a key study from the journal Pediatrics. And the goal was really simple, but really important. Let's compare the recovery of athletes who were pulled from the game immediately versus those who stayed in and kept playing. So the study had two groups of athletes, all between 12 and 19 years old, who all got a concussion. The first group, they were taken out of the game or practice right away. The second group, though, kept playing for an average of about 19 minutes after getting hurt. Now, 19 minutes doesn't sound like a very long time, does it? But as you're about to see, the data shows it makes a world of difference.
And that brings us to the results. Let me tell you, what the researchers found wasn't some small, minor difference. The data revealed a stark, unavoidable truth about what happens when you play through a concussion.
So, here's the million-dollar question. Did those extra 19 minutes of playtime really matter that much? How big of an impact could it possibly have on their recovery time?
Well, the results were just wow. The athletes who were removed right away took on average 22 days to get medically cleared to play again. But the group that kept playing, they took an average of 44 days. That's not a little longer. That's literally double the time on the sidelines. Let that sink in. The takeaway couldn't be clearer. Playing with a concussion, even for just a short amount of time, doubled the recovery period. By trying to be tough for just a few more minutes, these athletes ended up benched for weeks longer. But it gets even more serious. The researchers dug deeper and looked at something called a protracted recovery. Basically, that's a recovery that lasts longer than 21 days, 3 weeks, and it's linked to a much higher risk of persistent, long-term problems. This is the outcome everybody, and I mean everybody, wants to avoid. Okay, this right here might be the most shocking number from the entire study. The athletes who kept playing were nearly 9 times more likely to suffer from one of these long, complicated recoveries. 9 times. That is a staggering increase in risk, all from what might have seemed like a small decision in the heat of the moment. And, this isn't just about how many days you're out. It's about how you actually feel. In that first week after getting hurt, the group that played on reported symptom scores more than double the group that sat out. So not only were they out of the game longer, they were literally suffering more. They felt way, way worse.
So the big question is why? Why does staying in the game have such a massive, dramatic effect? Well, the answer lies in the basic science of how the brain responds to an injury.
Think of it like this. A concussion creates a full-blown energy crisis in your brain. It is desperate for energy to stabilize itself and start the healing process. Now, if an athlete keeps playing, that physical activity is demanding a huge amount of energy for their muscles. The body is essentially forced to steal that crucial energy away from the injured brain. This energy theft just makes the damage and inflammation worse and slams the brakes on the whole repair process.
Okay, so with all this data staring us in the face, what's the big takeaway? How do we use this science to make the absolute smartest call on the field?
When the researchers analyzed absolutely everything, age, gender, concussion history, you name it, one factor stood out high above all the others in predicting a fast recovery: getting off the field immediately. That was it. It was the single most important thing you could do.
You've probably heard that classic line from the CDC, it's better to miss one game than the whole season. Well, this study is the hard, scientific proof that backs it up. It shows that missing the rest of one game could be the very thing that saves you from missing half the season.
This data completely reframes the whole decision, doesn't it? Taking yourself out of the game after a hit to the head isn't a sign of weakness. It's not quitting. It's a strategic move. It is the smartest and fastest thing an athlete can do to get back to playing as quickly and safely as possible.
That tough-it-out culture in sports is powerful. I get it, but the data here is just undeniable. The choice to play on for just a few more minutes can cost an athlete weeks of their season and, more importantly, their health. So the next time that moment comes, the question isn't just about being tough. It's about being smart enough to choose the fastest path back to the game.